Picture this. You're sitting in your favorite dress, heart pounding with excitement, thinking your man is about to propose to you after 3 beautiful years together. The ring box comes out. He gets down on one knee and then says another woman's name. That was my reality 6 months ago. And today, I'm sharing every painful detail of how I discovered my entire relationship was a lie. Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome back to my channel. I'm here to share the raw, unfiltered truth about love, betrayal, and the strength we find in our darkest moments. If you've ever been blindsided by someone you trusted with your whole heart, hit that like button right now and subscribe because this story will shake you to your core. I promise by the end of this video, you'll understand why sometimes the worst thing that happens to us becomes the best thing that could have happened. Let's dive in. My name is Tanya, and 6 months ago I thought I had it all figured out. I was 28, climbing the ladder at a marketing firm downtown, living in a cute apartment with a man I was sure I'd marry. Brandon seemed like everything I'd prayed for. He was this charming real estate agent with the prettiest smile and a way of making me feel like I was the only woman in the room. We met 3 years ago at this little coffee shop on 5th Street. I was stressed about a presentation, laptop dying, coffee everywhere, and he just appeared with napkins and this gentle laugh that made everything feel okay. From that first conversation, everything felt easy with him. He listened when I talked about my dreams, supported my career moves, and made Sunday mornings feel like magic with his terrible pancakes and perfect hugs. We moved in together after 2 years and I started keeping a Pinterest board for our future wedding. My mama loved him, my girls approved, and I felt like I was finally living the life I'd always imagined. But looking back now, I can see the cracks I chose to ignore. The late-night phone calls he'd take in the other room, the weekend work meetings that seemed to happen more and more often. The way he'd flip his phone face down when I walked into the room. I told myself I was being paranoid that successful people have busy lives. I trusted him completely, and that trust was about to destroy me in ways I never saw coming. 2 weeks before everything fell apart, Brandon surprised me with news that made my heart sing. He said he wanted to celebrate our 3-year anniversary somewhere special, somewhere that honored how far we'd come together. He'd made reservations at Bella Vista, this upscale Italian place downtown that we'd talked about trying for months but never could get a table. I was over the moon because Brandon wasn't usually the fancy dinner type, so this felt significant. I spent days planning the perfect outfit. I bought this stunning black dress that hugged every curve. Got my hair done, nails perfect, the works. I kept catching myself daydreaming about the evening, wondering if this might be the night he'd finally propose. We'd been talking about marriage more lately, about our future, about the kids we wanted, and the house we'd buy. Everything felt like it was building towards something beautiful. The night before our dinner, I could barely sleep. I kept imagining how he might do it, what he might say, how I'd tell the story to our grandchildren someday. I even practiced different ways to say yes in the mirror, trying to figure out which reaction would photograph best. I know it sounds silly now, but I was so deeply in love and so sure of our future together. I woke up that morning feeling like the luckiest woman alive, completely clueless that I was actually living in a fantasy. Brandon seemed nervous all day, which only added to my excitement. He kept checking his phone, running his hands through his hair, pacing around our apartment like he had something big on his mind. I convinced myself it was proposal nerves, and I found it endearing how much this meant to him. I spent extra time getting ready, wanting to look perfect for what I believed would be one of the most important nights of our lives. When we pulled up to Bella Vista that evening, something felt different immediately. There were too many cars in the parking lot for a Tuesday night, and I recognized several of them. Brandon's co-worker Rachel's white BMW was there along with his buddy Tony's truck and a few other vehicles I'd seen at his office parties. I mentioned it to Brandon and he just shrugged, saying, "The restaurant must be busier than expected." Walking through the front door, my confusion deepened. The hostess knew Brandon by name and led us toward the back of the restaurant with this knowing smile that made my stomach flutter with nervous energy. I noticed more familiar faces scattered throughout the dining room. People from Brandon's work, some of his college friends, even his cousin Jamie who lived 2 hours away. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Then we turned the corner into the private dining area, and my world tilted on its axis. The room was decorated with white roses and gold accents. Fairy lights strung across the ceiling and a photographer positioned in the corner like he was waiting for something momentous. There had to be 30 people there all dressed up, all watching us walk in with these expectant faces. But instead of excitement, I felt this growing dread in the pit of my stomach. Brandon's hand was shaking as he guided me to a table near the front of the room. He kept wiping his palms on his pants and avoided making eye contact with me. I tried to catch his attention to ask him what was happening, but he seemed to be in his own world. The conversations around us felt muffled, like I was underwater, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something crucial. Everyone seemed to know something I didn't. And that realization made my heart start pounding for all the wrong reasons. About 20 minutes into what I thought was our intimate anniversary dinner, Brandon stood up and tapped his glass with a fork. The entire room fell silent and all eyes turned toward us. My heart was hammering because this was it. This was the moment I'd been dreaming about. I smoothed my dress, tried to calm my breathing, and prepared myself to become engaged. "Thank you all for being here tonight," Brandon began, his voice shaky but determined. "I asked you to come because I wanted to share this moment with the people who matter most to me." I felt tears starting to form in my eyes because it was happening. It was really happening. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box, and I thought I might faint from pure joy. But then he turned away from me. He turned toward the other side of the room, toward where Rachel was sitting at a table with some of his other co-workers. My brain couldn't process what I was seeing. This had to be part of the surprise somehow. Maybe he was getting something from Rachel to give to me. That had to be it. "Rachel," he said, and his voice was stronger now, filled with a confidence I'd never heard. When he spoke to me, "You've changed my life in ways I never imagined possible." The room erupted in excited murmurs, and I felt like I was watching this scene unfold from outside my own body. Rachel's hands flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with shock and joy, and I finally understood what was happening. Brandon dropped to one knee, opened the ring box, and said the words that shattered my world into a million pieces. "Rachel, will you marry me?" The room exploded in cheers and applause while I sat frozen in my chair, watching the man I loved propose to another woman at what I thought was our anniversary dinner. She screamed yes, threw her arms around his neck, and everyone rushed forward to congratulate them. While I remained invisible in my front row seat to my own heartbreak for what felt like an eternity, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. I watched Brandon slip the ring onto Rachel's finger, watched them kiss while everyone cheered, watched my entire future crumble while surrounded by celebration. Then something inside me snapped and I found my voice. "Brandon." I said it quietly at first, but when he didn't hear me over the commotion, I stood up and said it louder. "Brandon." The room started to quiet down as people noticed me. This woman in the black dress who clearly didn't belong at this engagement party. Brandon turned around. And when our eyes met, I saw something I'd never seen before. Guilt so heavy it made him look like a stranger. "Tanya," he whispered. And just hearing him say my name in that moment made everything real. "I can explain." "But how do you explain bringing your girlfriend of 3 years to watch you propose to another woman? How do you explain lying about an anniversary dinner when you're actually celebrating the beginning of your life with someone else?" "Explain what, Brandon?" My voice was steady, but my hands were shaking. "Explain how you've been living a double life. Explain how you brought me here to watch you get engaged to her." The room was dead silent now. Everyone staring at this unexpected drama unfolding at what was supposed to be a perfect moment. Rachel looked confused, glancing between Brandon and me like she was trying to solve a puzzle. "Brandon, who is this?" she asked. And hearing her ask that question about me, about the woman who'd been sharing his bed and planning his future, broke something inside me that I didn't know could break. "I'm his girlfriend of 3 years, I said, looking directly at her because she deserved to know the truth, too. "I'm the woman who's been living with him, loving him, and planning our future while he was apparently planning his future with you." I didn't wait for Brandon's stammered explanations or Rachel's shocked questions. I grabbed my purse, held my head high, and walked out of that restaurant with whatever dignity I had left. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely order an Uber, but I managed to get a ride home while trying not to fall apart in the back seat. The 20-minute ride felt like hours. I stared out the window at the city lights, trying to make sense of what had just happened. How long had he been seeing her? How many lies had he told me? How many times had he looked me in the eye and promised me a future while planning his real future with someone else? The questions kept coming, each one more painful than the last. When I got home to our apartment, everything looked the same, but felt completely different. The pictures of us on the walls, the groceries we'd bought together that weekend, his clothes mixed with mine in the laundry basket. It all felt like evidence of a lie I'd been living. I sat on our bed and finally let myself cry. Really cry for the first time since walking out of that restaurant. My phone started buzzing with calls from Brandon, then texts, then more calls. I turned it off and ran a bath, needing to wash off the entire evening. As I sank into the hot water, I started remembering all the signs I'd ignored. The mysterious Rachel, who came up in conversation more often lately, the new cologne he'd started wearing. The way he'd been more attentive in bed recently, probably guilt, trying to masquerade as renewed passion. The next morning, I finally turned my phone back on and found 17 missed calls from Brandon and a string of text messages that told me everything I needed to know. He'd been seeing Rachel for 8 months. 8 months of lying to my face, of planning dates with her while coming home to me, of building a relationship with her while maintaining the illusion of our relationship. His texts were pathetic attempts at explanation. I didn't know how to tell you. I never meant for it to happen. You deserved better than finding out this way. But what struck me most was what he didn't say. He never said he was sorry for hurting me. He never said he regretted his choice. He never said he loved me. Even in his moment of being caught, he couldn't give me the courtesy of genuine remorse. My girls came over that afternoon and helped me pack his things. We didn't talk much while we worked, but their presence was everything I needed. They brought wine and takeout, and we spent the evening on my couch while I told them the whole story. Their anger on my behalf was fierce and protective, reminding me that I was loved, even when the person who was supposed to love me most had betrayed that love. Over the next few weeks, the pieces of his deception became clearer. Rachel had no idea about me until that night, which meant Brandon had been living completely separate lives. He'd been telling her he was single, available, ready for marriage. He'd been telling me we were building toward marriage while actively planning to marry someone else. The level of calculation it took to maintain that lie was staggering. But here's what I learned in the months that followed. Sometimes the worst betrayal becomes the greatest gift. Losing Brandon forced me to rediscover myself, to remember who I was before I became half of a couple that was never really whole. I started therapy not because I was broken, but because I wanted to understand how I'd ignored so many red flags. I threw myself into my career and got the promotion I'd been working toward for 2 years. I traveled to places Brandon had never wanted to visit. I deepened friendships that had taken a backseat to our relationship. I learned to cook for one without feeling lonely, to sleep in the middle of the bed without feeling empty, and to make decisions based solely on what I wanted. Most importantly, I learned that my worth was never tied to his choice. His ability to lie and deceive said everything about his character and nothing about my value. I deserved someone who would choose me every day, not someone who would keep me as a backup plan while pursuing his real dreams with someone else. 6 months later, I can honestly say I'm grateful for that horrible night at Bella Vista. It saved me from wasting more years with someone who never really saw me, never really valued me, never really loved me the way I deserved to be loved. It freed me to find the life and love that were actually meant for me. If you're watching this and relating to any part of my story, I want you to know that you are not alone and this is not your fault. If someone can lie to your face while planning their future with someone else, that's their failure, not yours. Your story could be the one that helps someone else discover their strength. If this resonated with you, make sure you subscribe for more real, unfiltered stories about love, heartbreak, healing, and the resilience we uncover when life pushes us to grow. And never forget, you deserve someone who chooses you every single day, not someone who keeps you as an option while searching for something better. I'll see you next week with another reminder that we're far stronger than we ever give ourselves credit for.